I was somewhere between Mina and nowhere when I saw the gate. It was just past midnight, maybe 12:15. I'd been on that Forest Service road for about 20 minutes, which sounds like nothing until you've driven it. No shoulders, trees right up to the edge. The kind of road that feels like it's getting narrower the longer you're on it, even when it isn't. I had the windows cracked because it was July in Arkansas and the AC on my Silverado had been making a grinding noise since Texarkana that I didn't want to think about. Hot air, pine smell, the occasional bug hitting the windshield. That was it. Just a normal bad drive. I was out there for work. Pipeline inspection, Williams Companies out of Tulsa. I'd been doing it for 8 years, which means I'd spent 8 years driving roads exactly like this one to get to river crossings and pressure monitoring stations that nobody else wanted to drive to. Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, up into Montana a few times. You get used to the dark. You get used to being the only vehicle on a road at midnight. It stops feeling strange after a while. That's probably relevant. The gate was a standard Forest Service barrier. Green metal. The kind that swings across the road on a post. I'd passed through a dozen of them on this route alone. This one was hanging open, which wasn't unusual. What was unusual was the angle. It wasn't just unlatched and drifted open. It was bent backward, almost 90 degrees past where it should have been able to go. The metal warped around the post like something had hit it moving fast, or pushed through it, from the inside. I slowed down and looked at it through the windshield for a second. I figured maybe a tree had fallen on it or a truck had clipped it backing out. There were explanations. I kept going. Then the smell hit me. I don't know how to describe it except copper and rot. Copper like a fistful of pennies. Rot like something that had been dead in the heat for a couple of days. It came through the cracked windows all at once, and it was thick, not faint. That's when I stopped the truck. I sat there for a minute with the engine running. I'm not great at knowing when to quit, but I'm pretty good at knowing when something's wrong. That smell was wrong. I grabbed my work flashlight from the passenger seat. Big mag light, I've had it for years. The rubber grip is worn down on one side, and got out. The ditch was about 15 feet off the road to my right. I almost missed it because the truck was green and the trees were dark and the whole thing was just sitting there in the shadows. A Forest Service pickup, full size, on its side. The cab was crushed flat, not dented, not caved in on one side. Flat, like something had pressed down on it from above. The driver's door was gone entirely, not crumpled, just gone. I moved the flashlight around and didn't see it anywhere. The driver was still in the seat. I didn't look long. I didn't need to. I backed up, slow and steady until I was at my truck and I got in and closed the door. I sat there with the engine still running and the flashlight in my lap. That part bugged me a little. That's probably an understatement. But I didn't have anything useful to do with how much it bugged me. So I set it aside and focused on what I could actually do, which was get out of there and call someone. I checked my phone. 1 bar. I dialed 911 and it connected on the second try, which felt like a small miracle. The dispatcher picked up fast. She sounded calm. Too calm, actually, the way people sound when they've been trained to sound calm, specifically in situations where calm is hard. She asked my location, and I gave her the road number and approximate mile marker. Then she said something that I've thought about a lot since. She said the area was under a federal incident response and that I needed to leave immediately via Highway 270. I asked her what kind of incident. She said she wasn't able to provide that information and that I needed to leave the area immediately via Highway 270. I asked if there were other people on the road. She said she wasn't able to provide that information and that I needed to leave the area immediately via Highway 270. That was 3 times she'd said the exact same sentence, word for word. I got the impression she was going to keep saying it however many times I asked questions, so I stopped asking. I told her I understood and hung up. I started turning the Silverado around. The road was narrow enough that it took a 3-point turn, maybe 4. I was halfway through it, headlights pointing into the trees when I saw the light behind me. Headlights coming fast, way too fast for that road. I got the truck straightened out and started moving toward them, thinking we'd both just pull to the side and sort it out, but they didn't slow down. They came harder. I had about 2 seconds to decide whether to floor it or stop, and then the white Explorer skidded sideways across the road in front of me, close enough that I could hear the tires on the gravel, and blocked me completely. I hit the brakes, sat there with my hands on the wheel. The Explorer's doors opened before it fully stopped moving. 2 people got out. A woman first, moving fast, already talking before her boots hit the gravel. She had a Forest Service cap pulled low and a green jacket, and she came straight at my door like she'd done it before, like she knew exactly where I'd be sitting. I had the window down and she grabbed my arm through it before I could say a word. "Kill your engine," she said. "Right now." I killed it. The road went quiet. Crickets. That was it. The man from the passenger side was already at the back of the Explorer, pulling a rifle out. Long one. He moved like someone who'd been told what to do and was doing it on autopilot, not really thinking about it. He got the rifle up and kept it up and stood there scanning the tree line, and I could see his hands from where I was sitting. They weren't steady. The woman hadn't let go of my arm yet. She was looking back toward the trees, not at me. "Ma'am," I said. She looked at me then. Dark eyes, deep weathering lines, silver-streaked hair under the cap. She was probably in her mid-50s, and she had the kind of face that was used to being listened to. She let go of my arm. "Aurora Soto," she said. "District Supervisor. Who are you?" "George Ortega, Pipeline Inspection. I was just..." "Are you armed?" "No." She nodded once and looked back at the trees. I got out of the truck. I don't know exactly why. I think I just didn't want to be sitting down for whatever she was about to say. She told me fast. No softening, no build-up, just the facts in order. Something had come out of the wilderness area around 3 hours ago. 4 people dead at a remote campsite near Rich Mountain. She said it flat like a weather report, but her jaw was tight. The thing had been moving north since then. There was a federal response team staged on Highway 270, she said, but they hadn't gone in. Nobody had gone in. "Then why are you here?" I asked. "I have a man up that road." She said his name was Ricky Rivera. Trail maintenance. He'd been working a section of the service road that afternoon and hadn't come out. She'd been his supervisor for 11 years. The way she said that part, the 11 years, it wasn't for my benefit. It was just a fact she needed to say out loud. The biologist, the man with the rifle, hadn't looked at us once. He was still watching the trees. His name was Samuel Campbell, she told me, wildlife biologist. And she said it like she was introducing him at a meeting and not standing on a dark road in the middle of whatever this was. I stood there for a second. I was thinking about the dispatcher. She's going to keep saying the same sentence. I was thinking about the truck in the ditch, which I wasn't going to say anything about because Soto's face told me she already knew. I went to my toolbox. It's a big one, full width, bolted across the bed of the Silverado. I've had it since my second year with Williams. There's a lot of junk in there that I keep meaning to clean out. Zip ties and busted headlamps and a roll of duct tape that's mostly gone. But there's also a heavy mag light, the kind that takes 4D batteries and is basically a club. And there's a flare gun I bought at a marine surplus place in Shreveport 3 years ago because a guy I worked with on the Red River crossing told me it had saved his life once, and I believed him. I grabbed both. Soto watched me. She didn't say anything. "I'm coming with you," I said. She looked at the flashlight, then the flare gun, then at me. I figured she was going to argue. She didn't. "Stay between us," she said. "Don't use the flashlight unless I say." She pulled a shotgun from the Explorer. Pump action, short barrel. She racked it once and we started up the road. I don't know what I was thinking exactly. Probably something practical and dumb, like that there were only 2 of them and one of them couldn't hold his rifle still. I'm not a brave person in any particular way. I just didn't have a better option, and standing next to my truck waiting felt worse. We walked. Campbell was in front, rifle up, moving slow and deliberate. Soto was behind him and to the left with the shotgun. I was behind her with the mag light off and the flare gun in my other hand, which felt a little ridiculous, honestly. The road was dirt and gravel and our boots were loud on it. The trees on both sides were close. July in Arkansas means everything is full and dark, and the canopy overhead was solid enough that I couldn't see much sky. Nobody talked. That was fine. I didn't have anything to say, and I don't think any of us wanted to hear our own voices out there. I watched the tree line. I've spent a lot of time in remote terrain, river crossings and ridge lines and access roads that don't show up on any map, and I've learned to look at the edges of things. Where the light stops, where the open ground meets cover. I watched the edges, and the edges were quiet, and that was almost worse, because quiet in July in Arkansas is not the default. It had been quiet since Soto told me to kill the engine, and I hadn't let myself think about that until right then. A quarter mile in, give or take, I saw him. He was sitting against a pine tree on the left side of the road, legs out in front of him, head back against the bark. For a second, I thought he was dead. Then he moved, just shifted his weight, and I could see him breathing. Soto was past me before I'd finished the thought. She went to him fast and crouched down, and I heard her say his name low. Ricky Rivera was a big man, broad through the shoulders, thick-limbed, the kind of build that comes from years of actual physical work. His Forest Service jacket was dark across the left shoulder and down his arm, and it took me a second to clock that it was blood, soaked all the way through. A lot of it. He was conscious, and his eyes were tracking, and when Soto put her hand on his face, he reached up and grabbed her wrist. "I'm okay," he said. Low voice, Arkansas drawl, slow. "Shoulder's bad, but I'm okay." "Can you walk?" "Yeah, give me a second." Campbell had stayed in the road with the rifle up. I moved up next to him and kept my eyes on the trees. Rivera was talking behind us, quiet, and I caught pieces of it. He said he'd been moving toward the road when he heard something above him, in the canopy. He said it like he knew how it sounded. He said whatever he'd seen before he ran, before the gash. It wasn't something that belonged up in the trees. Couldn't have been, not at that size. Nobody responded to that. I didn't have a response. Campbell didn't move. Then Campbell said, very quietly, "Stop." Just that, one word. He said it again. "Stop moving. Everyone stop." I stopped. Soto stopped. Rivera went quiet. Campbell was looking down the road ahead of us, rifle raised, and he wasn't shaking anymore. That part stuck with me. His hands had been shaking the whole walk up, and now they weren't. I looked where he was looking. It was in the middle of the road. Not at the edge, not in the trees. The middle. Just standing there, or almost standing, crouched low with those arms hanging down and touching the ground. I kept the flashlight on it because I didn't know what else to do with my hands. It was big. That's the first thing. Not tall exactly, but wide and heavy looking, and the way it held itself made it seem bigger than it probably was. Partially upright, like it was used to moving on all fours and had just decided to try the other option for a second. The arms were too long. Way too long. They reached the ground easy, and the hands, or whatever was at the end of them, were splayed out flat on the gravel. The head was wrong. I don't know how else to say it. It was too long front to back, stretched out, and it sat on the neck at an angle that didn't make sense. Not sideways, just off, tilted, like something had grabbed it and pulled. The skin caught the flashlight and looked pale and wet. Not shiny, just damp, like something that had been underwater recently. I don't know how long we stood there. Probably 3 seconds. Felt longer. Then it turned toward us. Soto fired. The shotgun was loud enough that I felt it in my back teeth. She fired once, and I think she hit it. I don't know where. And then Campbell put 2 rifle shots into it so fast they almost ran together. The thing lurched hard to the left, off the road and into the trees, and it was gone. Then the sound hit. not a scream. I've heard animals scream, deer especially, and it's a bad sound, but it's a sound. This was different. It was lower than anything I've heard, and it didn't come through my ears the normal way. I felt it in my chest. In the center of my chest, behind the sternum, like someone had pressed their palm flat against my ribs from the inside. It lasted maybe 2 seconds, and then it stopped. Nobody said anything. Rivera was the one who moved first. He pushed up off the tree he'd been leaning against and said, "We need to go." Just that. And he was right. So we went. I got under his good arm and Soto took the other side and we moved. Campbell was behind us, rifle still up, walking backward for the first stretch. I could hear his boots on the gravel. I focused on that. Boots on gravel. Keep moving. Trucks are a 1/4 mile back. We got maybe 40 yards when I heard it in the trees to our left. It wasn't crashing around. That's what got me. 8 years of field work. I've heard plenty of animals moving through brush in the dark, and they make noise. They snap things, they push through, they're not subtle. This wasn't that. This was steady and close, and almost quiet. Just enough sound to know something was there, moving parallel to us through the tree line, and it was keeping exact pace. I tracked it by sound for about 10 steps before I understood what that meant. It wasn't chasing us. If it wanted to chase us, it would have closed the distance already. It was moving with us, matching us, keeping us on the road in the open, away from the trees on the left side, steering us. I don't know where it was steering us toward. I didn't want to find out. I had the flare gun in my right hand. I'd been carrying it the whole walk up, and I'd kind of forgotten about it until that moment. It's a stubby little pistol, bright orange, looks like a toy. Holds 1 round, break action, and I'd loaded it before we left the trucks. I had 1 spare in my jacket pocket. I passed Rivera's weight fully to Soto and stepped left toward the tree line. Campbell said something behind me, quiet, I don't know what. I raised the flare gun and fired into the trees, wide, way too wide. I could tell the second I pulled the trigger. The flare arced out and hit nothing and burned out in the dirt somewhere in the dark. I broke the action, pulled the spent casing, and got the second round loaded with my hands, doing that thing where they're moving faster than your brain is actually tracking. I've done it with bolt cutters in a ditch in a rainstorm, and I've done it on a ladder in February, and my hands are pretty good at just doing the thing when I tell them to. I raised it again and adjusted right and fired. The flare hit the brush at the base of the tree line, and the dry July grass caught immediately. It spread fast, faster than I expected, moving up into the lower branches and throwing orange light across the road. I could see the trees clearly for a second, all of them, and I looked for it. I didn't see it, but the sound shifted. The movement in the trees, that steady parallel pace, it veered north, away from the fire. I tracked it by ear until I couldn't hear it anymore, and then it was just the fire and the sound of us breathing. Soto said, "Move." We moved. I didn't look back at the fire. I could feel the heat of it on my left side for a while, and then I couldn't. And I kept my eyes on the road ahead and my hand on Rivera's back to keep him moving. He was doing okay. He was upright, and his legs were working, and he didn't say anything the rest of the way. Just kept moving. Campbell stayed behind us. I don't know if he was still walking backward. I didn't check. The trucks came up in the headlights after another couple of minutes, and I felt my shoulders drop about an inch when I saw them. The Silverado was right where I'd left it. Soto's Explorer behind it. Both still there, nothing wrong with them, which I'd been low-key worried about the whole walk back. I got Rivera to the Explorer's back door and Soto pulled it open. He got in without help, which was good, because I wasn't sure I had much left to give. Campbell was already at the passenger side, rifle across his lap before the door was closed. I walked back to my truck. I got the Silverado started and pulled out ahead of the Explorer. The road was the same road we'd walked in on, which sounds obvious. But there's something about driving a stretch of dark forest road you just came out of on foot that makes it feel different, narrower. I kept the speed down because the ruts were bad and I didn't want to throw Rivera around in the back seat of the Explorer behind me. I could see Soto's headlights in my mirror, steady, staying close. I had the windows up. I don't know exactly when I'd put them up. Sometime between getting in and starting the engine, I guess. I wasn't thinking about it consciously. I just didn't want them down. I kept checking the tree line. Both sides. The headlights only reached so far and past that it was just dark. The kind of dark that doesn't give you anything to read. I watched for movement anyway. Pipeline work trains you to look at things that way, not because you expect something dramatic, but because you get used to scanning, checking for what's off, what's shifted, what doesn't match the last time you looked. 8 years of that. It's automatic. I did it the whole drive out and I didn't see anything and I couldn't decide if that was good or just neutral. The road felt longer going out than it had going in. I don't know if that's a real thing or just how I was experiencing it. Probably both. The checkpoint came up fast. 1 second it was just dark road and tree line, and then there were lights and figures and vehicles blocking the lane, and I slowed down and stopped. 3 men, maybe 4. I didn't get a clean count. Tactical gear, helmets, long guns. No markings I could identify. I work around pipeline infrastructure crews, utility contractors, the occasional BLM or Forest Service liaison, and I've seen enough agency patches to have a rough sense of who's who. These guys had nothing I recognized. No visible patches at all, actually. That part bugged me a little. One of them walked to my window and I put it down. He looked at me for maybe 2 seconds, looked past me into the cab, then looked back at the Explorer behind me. He didn't say anything to me. He just stepped back and waved me through with one hand. I pulled forward. In my mirror, I watched them do the same thing to Soto's Explorer, same 2-second look, same wave through. And then before the Explorer had fully cleared, they were already moving the barricade back across the road. Efficient, like they'd done it before or like they'd been waiting specifically for this vehicle to come out, and now that it had. The road was done. Nobody asked what we'd seen. Nobody asked for names or a statement or even just, hey, what happened out there? I'd been in situations before where emergency response shows up and the first thing they want is information, because information is how you figure out what you're dealing with. These guys already knew what they were dealing with. That was the only explanation that made sense. I pulled over about 100 yards past the checkpoint and Soto pulled up behind me. There was a man standing on the shoulder of 270 near a dark SUV with no markings. He walked to the Explorer first. I watched through my mirror. He and Soto talked for maybe 3 minutes. She nodded a couple of times. He handed her something, a card or a paper, I couldn't tell. Then he walked to my window. He was maybe 45, plain clothes under a jacket, calm in the way that people are calm when they're used to delivering information in bad situations. Not warm, not cold, just flat. You're not part of the Forest Service response, he said. No, I said. I was on the road when it started. He looked at me for a moment. You're free to go, he said. We appreciate your assistance tonight. That was it. No clipboard, no form, no follow-up. He walked back to his SUV. I sat there for a second. I'm not sure what I expected. Some kind of official acknowledgement, maybe. A process. Something that would make the night fit into a recognizable shape. There wasn't one. He'd said I was free to go, and apparently that was the whole transaction. I got out to stretch my legs, and that's when Soto came around from the Explorer. She looked like she'd aged about 5 years since I'd first seen her on the road, which is saying something because she'd already looked tired then. She stopped a couple feet away and crossed her arms. Not in a defensive way, just like she was cold. It was probably 68 degrees out, July in Arkansas. Neither of us was cold. I'm sorry, she said. I pulled you into something you had no part in. I didn't have an answer for that. I thought about saying it was fine, but it wasn't really fine. It was just over, and those aren't the same thing. I thought about saying I'd made the choice myself, which was true, but That didn't feel like the right response either. I just kind of nodded. She looked at me for another second, then looked back at the Explorer. Campbell was still in the passenger seat. He hadn't moved since we'd stopped. Rivera was in the back, and I could see the dome light was on and someone was with him. One of the tactical guys, I think, or maybe a medic who'd materialized from somewhere. I hadn't tracked that part. "He'll be okay," Soto said. About Rivera, I figured. "The shoulder's bad, but he'll be okay." "Good," I said. She nodded once and walked back to the Explorer. I stood there on the shoulder of 270 for another minute. The checkpoint behind me was fully closed now, vehicles across the road, the lights pointing back into the forest. The federal liaison was back at his SUV on a phone or a radio. Nobody was looking at me. I got back in the Silverado. Rivera got taken by ambulance maybe 20 minutes later. I watched it pull away from the shoulder. No sirens, just lights. Campbell got into a different vehicle at some point. I didn't see him leave. He didn't come over to say anything, and I didn't go over to him either. I understood that. Some nights you just need to get into a vehicle and go, and talking to anyone is the last thing you have the capacity for. That's me on a normal Tuesday, honestly. After what we'd just done, I wasn't going to hold it against him. By the time the ambulance was out of sight, the shoulder of 270 was just a road again. A couple of vehicles, a few people standing around, and then less of that. And then I was the only one still parked there. I put the Silverado in drive and pulled onto the highway. The gas station was a come and go. I don't know why that's the detail that stuck, but it did. I pulled in around 2 in the morning and parked away from the pumps, over by the air hose and the dumpsters, where the lot lights were a little dimmer. Left the engine running, didn't turn on the radio. Just sat there with the heat on low and the defroster humming, and watched the fluorescent light over the front door do that thing where it flickers just enough that you notice it, but not enough that anyone's going to fix it. There was one other car in the lot, a silver Camry with a cracked taillight parked right up front. I figured the night clerks. Nobody came or went the whole time I was there. I didn't go inside. I thought about it, probably 4 or 5 times. Coffee would have been good, something to do with my hands. But getting out of the truck felt like more than I could manage right then. And I'm not being dramatic about that. It was just the truth of it. I had about 30% of my normal capacity available, and I was using all of it to sit still and breathe. My hands were fine. I noticed that. They weren't shaking or anything. 8 years of crawling around under pipeline infrastructure in bad weather and worse terrain. You get to where your hands just do what they need to do, and then stop when the job's done. That's not toughness. That's just repetition. But the rest of me was doing something different. Not panic. More like everything had been turned up too loud and my brain was just waiting for it to come back down to a normal volume. I kept thinking about the road, the sound it made moving through the trees. That was the part that kept coming back. Not what I'd seen in the flashlight beam, not the moment Soto fired, not even the fire catching in the brush. Just the sound of something moving through the canopy at a pace that matched ours exactly. The casual part of it. That was the part that bugged me. I didn't have a framework for that. I mean that practically. When you work field inspection long enough, you develop a mental filing system for what goes wrong. Equipment failures, environmental hazards, access problems, personnel issues. Everything gets sorted and logged, and you know what to do with it. I had nothing to put this in. I kept opening the drawer, and the drawer wasn't there. Around 3, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. It said Rivera had been admitted to Mena Regional and was stable. That was it. No name, no explanation of who sent it. I stared at it for a while. I typed back, "Thanks," and it didn't deliver. The number was probably a burner or a department line or something. I didn't think about it too hard. Rivera was stable. That was the thing. I learned later from nothing official, just from being parked on the edge of a small town at 3 in the morning with my window cracked, that the helicopter came before dawn. I heard it. Didn't see it, but I heard it pass over heading east and then come back heading west about 40 minutes later, and the second pass was lower and slower, the kind of flight path that means you've got what you came for. I figured that was Rivera's transfer. I didn't know where they were taking him. Still don't. The road back toward Rich Mountain was still closed. I could see the glow of the checkpoint lights from the parking lot if I looked south. They hadn't moved. Nobody came to the gas station. Nobody knocked on my window. The federal team had made it pretty clear how this was going to go, which was that it wasn't going to go anywhere. No statements, no follow-up, no, "Thanks for your help, here's a number to call if you have questions." Just a road closure and a liaison who'd already moved on to his next task before I'd finished walking back to my truck. I understood the message. I didn't love it, but I understood it. Somewhere around 3:30, I reclined the seat back a couple inches and closed my eyes. I wasn't going to sleep. I just needed to not be looking at the parking lot for a while. I stayed like that until the sky started going gray at the edges. Then I put the seat back up, checked my mirrors out of habit, and pulled onto the highway. I drove east on 68, then cut south on 71 toward the Oklahoma line. The sun came up somewhere around Waldron, orange and flat across the fields, and I stopped at a McDonald's drive-thru in Waldron and got a large coffee and a breakfast sandwich I ate in 3 bites in the parking lot. The coffee was too hot. I drank it anyway. I had a pressure monitoring station to get to. The Kiamichi River site is about 40 miles into Oklahoma, southeast of Talihina, down a county road that turns to gravel for the last 2 miles. I've been to that station probably a dozen times over the years. It's a small concrete pad, a valve assembly, 2 pressure gauges, a corrosion test point, and a lockbox with the inspection log. Takes me about an hour to do it right. I got there around 9:15 in the morning. The access road was dry and the gate was locked the way it was supposed to be, which I noticed more than usual. I unlocked it, drove through, locked it behind me, parked the Silverado on the pad, got my clipboard and my meter and my camera out of the back seat. The corrosion readings were fine, slightly elevated on the downstream test point, within tolerance. Nothing I hadn't seen before. Pressure differentials were normal. I photographed everything, logged the readings, noted the date and time, signed the sheet. My handwriting looked the same as it always does. I don't know what I expected. I filed the report from my phone while I was still sitting on the tailgate. Williams Companies has a field reporting portal that's about as exciting as it sounds. I logged in, entered the station ID, filled in the numbers, added my notes, hit submit. The little spinning wheel went for a second and then it said, "Report received." Same as always. I sat there on the tailgate for a few minutes after that. The river was maybe 100 yards through the trees, and I could hear it moving. Bugs going. A bird doing something repetitive in the branches above the lockbox. Normal late July morning in southeastern Oklahoma. The air smelled like dirt and green stuff and nothing else. The flare gun was still in the toolbox. I'd put it back in there somewhere between Mina and Waldron, I think. I hadn't thought about it consciously. I just reached back and put it where it lived. 1 flare left in the box with it. I had 3 more stations on this leg of the route. 2 in Oklahoma, 1 back into Arkansas near Waldron. 4 days of driving, give or take. I had enough clothes in the duffel behind the seat. I had the cooler with some drinks and a bag of trail mix and a gas station sandwich that was probably still okay. I got off the tailgate and put my clipboard back in the truck. The next 4 days went the way inspection days always go. You drive, you find the station, you check the readings, you write them down. You drive again. Second station on that leg was outside Talihina, up a dirt 2-track that runs along a creek bed. I'd been there maybe a dozen times over the years. Same lockbox bolted to the same concrete pad, same pressure gauge with the same slow drip at the fitting I'd been logging as monitor. No action required for 2 years running. I got there around 10 in the morning, did my readings, took my photos, wrote everything down, submitted the report from the tailgate. The little wheel spun. Report received. I drove back out. I ate lunch in the truck, peanut butter crackers from a gas station in Talihina, and the last of the trail mix. I had a Gatorade that had gotten warm. I ate all of it anyway. That night I slept in the Silverado at a pullout on Forest Road 428. I'd done it before plenty of times. You tilt the seat back, you put your jacket over your chest, you sleep. The windows fog a little by morning. It's not comfortable, but it's not bad either. I'd slept in worse places. The Kiamichi crossing in February that one time, when I had to wait out a flash flood warning for 6 hours in the cab. That was worse. I didn't think about anything specific that night or the others. That's not exactly true. I'd start to think about something and then I'd just stop. Not on purpose. It was more like the thought would get to a certain point and then there wasn't anywhere for it to go, so it just didn't. I'd stare at the headliner for a while and then I'd be asleep. Third station was back up into Arkansas, the one near Waldron. I crossed the state line on 270 and didn't look at the road sign when I passed it. I was watching the road. That's what I told myself. I kept my eyes on the road and I found the turnoff and I drove the 6 miles into the station without thinking about the last time I'd been on a Forest Service road in Arkansas at night. Or I thought about it a little, and then I stopped. The Waldron station was fine. Readings were normal. I logged everything, submitted, got back in the truck. On the way out, I passed a county sheriff's unit parked at the junction where the Forest Service road meets 270, just sitting there. The deputy inside was looking at his phone. He didn't look up when I went by. There was no tape, no cones, nothing blocking anything. Just a guy in a truck, same as me. I kept driving. I called my supervisor at Williams that afternoon. Routine check-in, which I do every few days on a route. He asked how the readings were looking. I told him the Kiamichi crossing had some surface oxidation worth watching, and that the Talihina fitting was still dripping. He said, okay, log it, which I already had. He asked if I needed anything. I said no. That was the whole call. 4 minutes, maybe. He didn't ask about the road closure on 270. I don't know if he even knew about it. Probably not. It wasn't his territory to know about. I had 2 more stations after Waldron, both in Oklahoma, both routine. I did them on day 3 and day 4, got my readings, filed my reports. The work was exactly what it had always been. You're looking for pressure variance, corrosion, anything that's changed since the last visit. You're comparing numbers against numbers. It's not complicated work. It just requires you to show up and pay attention and write things down accurately. I'm good at it. I've been doing it long enough that I can do it when I'm tired, when I'm distracted, when I'm whatever I was that week. The numbers don't care what else happened. You just read them and write them down. On the last night, I found a pullout near Broken Bow and slept there. I had a bag of chips and a Coke I'd been saving and I ate those. I had a paperback in the door pocket, one of those airport thrillers, and I read maybe 30 pages of it before I couldn't track the sentences anymore. I put it down. The windows were already starting to fog at the edges. I thought about Rivera, not for long, just for a minute. He'd been airlifted before dawn, and after that I had no information. I didn't know which hospital, didn't know his status, didn't have a way to ask. He'd been conscious when we got to him. He'd been talking. That shoulder gash was bad, but he'd been talking. I figured that meant something. I didn't know for sure. I thought about Campbell for maybe 10 seconds and then I stopped because there wasn't anything useful in that direction. Soto. I thought about a little longer. She'd found me in that parking lot before I drove away and she'd said she was sorry I got pulled into it. I hadn't had an answer for her at the time and I still didn't. It wasn't her fault. She'd come back for her guy. That's the whole story there. I didn't have anything to say about it one way or another. I filed my last report the morning of day 4 from the tailgate of the Silverado at a station outside Broken Bow. Pressure readings, corrosion notes, photos of the fitting and the gauge. Typed it all in, hit submit. Report received. That was the end of the route. I sat there for a few minutes after. The trees around the station were big post oaks, the kind that get thick and gnarled after a few decades. The light was coming through them sideways, still early enough that it was doing that. A woodpecker was working on something somewhere I couldn't see. The air smelled like pine and dust and nothing else. The flare gun was in the toolbox. I didn't open the toolbox. I started the truck and I drove home. The drive back to Tulsa takes about 4 hours from Broken Bow if you go straight. I went straight. I took the turnpike most of the way, which costs a few dollars in tolls but saves time. I stopped once for gas outside McAllister and got a coffee and a breakfast sandwich from the attached Subway, which is a thing I normally think is a bad idea, but I was hungry. It was fine. The coffee was fine. I got back to Tulsa around noon, drove to my apartment, carried my duffel inside, threw most of what was in it directly into the laundry, took a shower, ate something from the freezer, sat on my couch for a while. I didn't write anything down. Not about any of it. There was no form for it, no system, no person at Williams or anywhere else I could call and say, here's what I saw on a Forest Service road in Arkansas on a Tuesday night in July. The federal team at the 270 checkpoint hadn't asked for my name, hadn't asked for a statement, a contact number, nothing. They'd waved us through and put up their barriers, and that was the end of my involvement as far as anyone official was concerned. So there was no record, just mine, and I wasn't keeping one. I went back to work the following Monday. Different route, up into Kansas. Pressure monitoring on a compressor station line outside Ouachita. Routine. I drove up Sunday night, slept in a motel this time, did my readings Monday morning. The numbers were normal. I wrote them down and filed the report and drove to the next station. The road outside Mina stayed closed. I saw it mentioned once, a few weeks later, in a brief item in the Mina paper that I found online for no reason I could explain. It said the closure was related to an ongoing federal land management assessment. No timeline for reopening? No other details? That was it. I kept working the route. The flare gun stayed in the toolbox. I put a new flare in it somewhere around September when I noticed the one remaining one was getting old. Standard thing to do. You keep the equipment ready. You don't leave things half-stocked. I don't know what I saw on that road. I know what I saw. Those are two different things, and I've stopped trying to make them the same thing. It doesn't go anywhere useful. What goes somewhere useful is the work. You show up, you read the numbers, you write them down. You do that right, and the pipeline holds, and nobody has a bad day because of something you missed. I'm good at that part. I kept doing that part.